And how about JJ's burial site? That Alex was only out there, what was it, 17 minutes? Is that what the FBI guy said? That Alex was out there 17 minutes on that day. So certainly not enough time to dig a meticulous grave and bury a child, find a board from the garage, find rocks that lined up perfectly. Certainly not enough time for Alex to do that on his own. So I'm guessing he had help from Chad.
Well, that was part of Jim Archibald's closing argument in the Idaho trial of Lori Vallow Daybell, also known as the Cult Mom murder trial. Lori was convicted for her role in the murders of her two children, JJ and Tylee, as well as her husband's first wife, Tammy Daybell. And that closing argument was one example of the many times Lori's husband, Chad Daybell, was also implicated in the murders. And now, Chad Daybell is facing charges connected to those same murders. So the question is, who really was the mastermind behind this cult conspiracy? Court TV anchor Ted Rollins explains.
Chad Daybell grew up in the LDS Church in Springfield, Utah. And according to Chad, in his teens, he became sort of a prophet.
The way he described it was that his veil was more open than it had been.
Daybell met his first wife, Tammy Douglas, while in college. He was a part-time grave digger. During their marriage, they would have 5 children. The couple also founded a book company through which Chad published many religious books.
I've recently released my autobiography entitled Living on the Edge of Heaven, where I tell more about my 2 near-death experiences.
Chad Daybell claimed he had visions of the future and heard a voice that guided him. He told followers he knew the end of the world was coming and that evil zombies were taking over some people's bodies.
Chad's been a very prolific author, so in the past, I would say a lot of his publications are very much in the mainstream, but it does seem that their trajectory seems to be taking them away from the kind of center where most people in the faith would have.
Chad would meet Lori Vallow in 2018. They had an affair, and she became a dedicated follower of his cult-like group. The next year, Chad's wife Tammy died in her sleep.
I begged her to go to the doctor. Her heart was failing her. She was physically falling apart.
Chad is now charged with Tammy's murder. 2 weeks after her death, on November 5th, 2019, he and Lori were married. Within 7 months, Chad and Lori Daybell would both be jailed for the murders of her children and his wife. The remains of Lori's daughter, Tylee, and son, JJ, were found in Chad's backyard.
On behalf of Mr. Daybell, we will enter a plea of not guilty to all of the charges.
Now, as we look ahead, there is a hearing set for November 29th to discuss a number of issues, including Chad Daybell's request that the death penalty be taken off the table in his trial. This trial is set to begin in April of next year. All right, let's bring back in our guests still with us. Ann Bremner, Rick King, Ben Chu, and I'll start with you. He's made an interesting argument regarding taking the death penalty off the table. He made a number of arguments, but I'm going to focus in on one where he says, based on the state's argument in Lori's case, he's less culpable. They argued that she manipulated him, that she was the leader, the puppet master, as it were, and that because of that, it's inequitable, it's unconstitutional that he's facing the death penalty and she didn't. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting argument, but that they can have inconsistent theories, prosecutors. But the other part of it is she didn't get the death penalty because the prosecutors missed a deadline, remember? So which I always thought was kind of interesting way for a judge to take it off the table. The judge probably wanted to take it off the table, but remember, there's a deadline issue, and that's why the judge took the death penalty off the table for her. So he can't really argue that he's got the same argument here. You know, it is disproportionate. And the fact that they argued that she was in charge or he was in charge, things like that, they can make their arguments, and it shouldn't be enough to take the death penalty off the table. You know, I mean, they picked a bad state, you know, to commit these crimes, frankly. It's a tough place to be. in a death penalty case.
Yeah, Ben Chu, you know, he also was making the argument that he thinks the state shouldn't even be able to make the argument that he was the ringleader after making an opposite argument that she was the ringleader or the leader of this whole thing, the manipulator in her trial. Clearly, as Ann said, that's not something that, I don't even know why he's arguing that. Clearly, the state can make inconsistent arguments.
I concur entirely with Ann that and you that the state can make alternative arguments, and I think it's not looking good for Chad Daybell.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because, and I can say this, Rick King, he's in a good position in one sense. His attorney was at the trial basically every day. He was at Lori's trial. And so he basically got a preview of the evidence that would come up against him. Remember, initially, they were going to be tried together. That changed. And he really has a preview. So in that sense, he's probably in a better position than Lori's attorneys were.
Right. Having an opportunity to hear their arguments and what they brought against Lori is definitely going to be a benefit to him. And I think kind of one of the things that I think all of us have said all along is there's going to be a lot of finger pointing toward the empty chair. The Alex who's not with us, who was out there. And I didn't realize, and I just heard for the first time today, they tracked him out there for only 17 minutes. And I also learned for the first time today that Chad was a grave digger. So that's not going to, that doesn't play too well for him. But at the same time, that the benefit of hearing it before and being able to point at the brother Alex, I think will help him in this trial. Ultimately, I think he takes the same fate as Lori takes, and I think that he's convicted as well.
Yeah, I agree. Much of the evidence is the same, and it all, as far as the conspiracy is concerned, it just is an act in furtherance of that conspiracy, and there clearly is evidence of that, I would think. And change of venue, still in play here. The state now wants it moved from Ada County, which is a larger county. We know it was moved up there for that reason. They want it moved back closer to Fremont County, the other side of the state. There's a different type of juror over there. The defense is opposing that, obviously, saying they haven't given any good reason for the judge to open up that motion and to change his mind. Your thoughts on whether that might succeed?
Well, I always think change of venue should really be for the defense in a criminal case. And I think in the internet age, in a high-profile trial, you can't go anywhere. I mean, you can't go anywhere. You can't hide anywhere. It's just maybe you have a different type of jury pool that you can point to. But with respect to the viewing of the case by the public, you know, it's universal. This case is international. It's so appalling and offensive to people. So I don't know that they can really go anywhere and have a more advantageous venue. You know what, Ben? Chad has filed a motion as well to have a face-to-face meeting with Lori. I want to get your thoughts on what that might tell us about where he is, where his head is at. I mean, one of the things we all marveled at during Lori's trial was that she didn't do more to point the finger at him. It seemed towards the end of the trial they started to go in that direction, but we all felt they missed many opportunities to do that with a number of witnesses, and that had to be orchestrated by Lori. Will he point the finger at her? He wants to talk to her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that may be one of the last things he has left, one of the last arrows he has left in his quiver. I'm not sure it's going to be availing for him.
Rick King, let me ask you this. Do you think there's a chance of a plea in this case? Now, the death penalty still on the table. Obviously, that's a bargaining chip that could lead to a plea deal. Do you think at some point we might get a plea deal?
I mean, that's always, I guess, got to be on the table for Chad, because I think he's going to see the writing on the wall that is, as long as the death penalty is available for him, I think he has to think about a plea. The case against Lori went pretty quickly, and I think that he has to believe he's going to fall the same way. I do think that he will, if he goes to trial. I think that meeting that you just referenced with Ben is his chance to tell her, hey, listen, you already got your time. I'm going to point to you. I still love you, but I got to point to you because I got to try to save myself. And I think that's the purpose of that meeting.
Yeah, he might call on that love to say to her, look, if you love me, you'll let me use you to try to get off this thing some way, somehow. That's what I think as well.